In just a few moments, President Lee Jae-myung will speak at the National Assembly to seek bipartisan support from lawmakers on next year's budget proposal. He's expected to outline the objectives of a spending plan worth 728 trillion Korean won, or around $510 billion US, and call on both ruling and opposition parties for its swift passage. Now, that's about an 8% increase from this year, surpassing the 700 trillion Korean won mark for the first time in South Korea's history. Now, the proposed budget allocates a record amount for research and development, with a particular focus on artificial intelligence, as part of the government's efforts to revitalize the domestic economy and foster new growth engines. This will be the president's second budget speech since taking office in June, following his first one in late that month on the supplementary budget. During today's speech, the president is also expected to explain the outcomes of the recent APEC leaders meeting held in Gyeongju and ask for the parliament's cooperation on follow-up measures. He's likely to say that passing the expanded budget for next year is needed to incorporate the achievements of APEC into national policy. So again, we're still waiting for the president to deliver his speech at the National Assembly. In just a few moments, he will speak at the parliament to seek bipartisan support from lawmakers on next year's budget proposal. He's expected to outline the objectives of a spending plan that's worth 728 trillion Korean won, or around $510 billion US, and call on both ruling and opposition parties for its swift passage. Now, that amount is about an 8% increase from this year, surpassing the 700 trillion Korean won mark for the first time in South Korea's history. The proposed budget allocates a record amount for research and development, with a particular focus on artificial intelligence, as part of the government's efforts to revitalize the domestic economy and foster new growth engines. Now, this will be the president's second budget speech since taking office, following his first one in late June on the supplementary budget. And during today's speech, the president is also expected to explain the outcomes of the recent APEC leaders meeting recently held in Gyeongju and ask for the parliament's cooperation on follow-up measures. He's likely to say that passing the expanded budget for next year is essential to incorporate the achievements of APEC into national policy. So while we still wait for President Lee Jae-myung's budget speech at the National Assembly, he will speak at the National Assembly soon to seek bipartisan support from lawmakers on next year's budget proposal. Now, President Lee expected to outline the objectives of a spending plan worth over 700 trillion Korean won. Now, that's around $510 billion US, and the president will call on both ruling and opposition lawmakers for its swift passage. Now, the total amount is about an 8% increase from this year's budget plan, surpassing the 700 trillion won Korean mark for the first time in the country's history. And the proposed budget allocates a record amount for research and development, with a particular focus on AI, as the government aims to improve and revitalize its domestic economy and foster new growth engines. And this will be the president's second budget speech since taking office in June, following his first one on the supplementary budget that he delivered in late June. Now, during today's speech, the president is also expected to explain the outcomes of the recent APEC leaders meeting recently held in Gyeongju and ask for the parliament's cooperation on follow-up measures. Now, the president's also likely to say that the passing of the expanded budget that's over 700 trillion Korean won for next year is essential to incorporate the achievements of APEC into national policy. So again, we are still waiting for the president to deliver his remarks at the National Assembly, where he will seek bipartisan support from lawmakers from both sides on next year's budget proposal. He's expected to give details on the objectives of a spending plan that's worth over 700 trillion Korean won, or around $510 billion US dollars, that is, and call on both ruling and opposition parties for its swift passage. Now, the total amount is around a 8% increase from this year's budget proposal, surpassing the 700 trillion Korean won mark for the first time in South Korea's history. It appears the president is about to deliver his speech. We'll come back right afterwards. So on the screen, we are seeing the plenary hall at the National Assembly while lawmakers wait for the president to give his speech on next year's budget proposal. He will seek bipartisan support from lawmakers today on next year's budget plan that's expected to be worth over 700 trillion Korean won, around $510 billion US dollars, that is, and call on lawmakers at the National Assembly for its swift passage. The total amount is about an 8% increase from this year, and this is the first time that the budget proposal has surpassed over the 700 trillion Korean won mark and this is the first time in South Korea's history that the total amount is going over 700 trillion Korean won. The budget for next year allocates a record amount for research and development, with a particular focus on artificial intelligence, as the government plans to revitalize the domestic economy and foster new growth engines. This will be President Lee's second budget speech since taking office, following his first one in late June on the supplementary budget. We see the president entering the plenary hall at the National Assembly now, shaking hands with lawmakers as he walks in. So again, this will be the president's second budget speech since he took office in June. And during today's speech, the president is also expected to explain the outcomes of the recent APEC leaders meeting that was held in Gyeongju, where the president also held summits with U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, along with other world leaders. President Lee is also likely to say that passing the expanded budget for next year is essential to incorporate the achievements of APEC into national policy. So this next year's budget proposal is expected to be worth over 700 trillion Korean won for the first time in South Korea's history. We see the president walking into the plenary hall, and we're still waiting for him as he walks in to take the podium and deliver his speech on next year's budget proposal. We see him now shaking hands with lawmakers as he walks in. It appears that he'll deliver his speech now. We'll come back right afterwards.
좀 허전하군요.
Well, we're missing people here.
네. 존경하는 국민 여러분,
Honorable fellow citizens,
우원식 국회의장님과
Speaker Woo Won-sik, and members of the National
새
Assembly.
정부 출범 이후 첫
It is
정기
deeply
국회에서
meaningful for me to personally present next year's government budget at the first regular session of the National Assembly since the launch of the new administration.
예산안 설명에 앞서서
Before explaining the budget, I would like to express my profound gratitude to all of our people who joined forces for the success of APEC in Gyeongju. Thank you so much. Thanks to the support of our citizens and the cooperation of the National Assembly, the Republic of Korea has been able to firmly establish itself as a responsible global nation leading the world's prosperity and exchange and cooperation. For the first time at the APEC leaders meeting, we agreed to work together to address the common challenges facing humanity, including AI and low birth rates and population aging, and by explicitly identifying the cultural and creative industries as a new growth engine for APEC, we solidify the foundation for the sustainable growth of K-culture going forward. Amid global attention, by bringing about the Gyeongju Declaration, the Republic of Korea was able to lead the role of advancing exchange and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific region and promoting peace in the region. In particular, through the Korea-US Summit held during APEC Week, we concluded tariff negotiations with the United States, thereby easing uncertainty in our economy. By securing tariff levels equal to those of our competitors in our flagship export sectors, automobiles and semiconductors, we laid the groundwork for competing on a level playing field. Within the U.S.-bound investment package, we set annual investment ceilings to minimize the impact on the foreign exchange market that many were concerned about. And in the process of selecting and operating investment projects, we also secured multi-layered safety mechanisms to increase the likelihood of recovering invested funds. In addition, through progress in consultations on supplying nuclear fuel for nuclear-powered submarines, we further solidified the foundation of self-reliant national defense, and by creating a groundbreaking opening for uranium enrichment and reprocessing of spent nuclear fuel, we've been able to strengthen future energy security. Through the Korea-China Summit, we agreed to fully restore Korea-China relations and to once again move forward together on a path of pragmatism and win-win cooperation as strategic cooperative partners. Above all, sharing the consensus that people's livelihood is the utmost importance, we concluded 6 MOUs, including a 70 trillion won currency swap agreement between the two central banks in cooperation to counter transnational scam crimes. I'd like to say that we poured in everything, heart and soul, to achieve the best results even in the worst situations. Going forward as well, based on pragmatic diplomacy centered on national interests, the government will strengthen the Republic of Korea's national power and further enhance our standing. Today marks exactly 5 months since I took the presidential oath of office. Over the past 5 months, we have approached our tasks with an extraordinary resolve to overcome the cold wave hitting people's livelihoods and the economy in the wake of unlawful martial law, and fortunately our economy has emerged from a state of emergency. Consumer sentiment is reviving, and the economic growth rate, which retreated into negative territory in the first quarter of this year, rebounded to 1.2% in the third quarter, marking the highest level in 6 quarters. The stock index also surpassed 4,000 mark. Thanks to the cooperation of our citizens, the geopolitical, governance, and market transparency risks that had been constricting stock prices have been partially alleviated, and policies for the industrial economy, including AI, have gradually begun to take hold. However, to rest or be complacent at this point would be far from appropriate for the situation we face now. We stand at a critical juncture where we must seek national survival amid a reorganization of the international trade order of the likes of which we have never experienced before, and in the face of great wave of AI transformation. If we fail to read the changes and merely follow behind others, we will endlessly be falling behind. But if we lead the change and move one step ahead, we can enjoy boundless opportunities. Just as we have transitioned from an agrarian society to an industrial one, and one from industrial to information society, the transition to AI society is inevitable. In the era of industrialization, being a day late meant falling a month behind. In the information age, a day late would be a year falling behind, but in the AI era, being a day late means falling a generation behind. Regrettably, the previous administration not only wasted precious time, but even drastically cut the R&D budget, regressing into the past. Because our start was late, from now on we must steadily increase our speed so that by catching up with the front runners, opportunities will also open for us. Just as President Park Chung-hee laid the highways of industrialization and President Kim Dae-jung opened the highways for informatization, we must now build the highways of the AI era and open a future of takeoff and growth. The 2026 budget proposal prepared by the government is precisely the Republic of Korea's first budget to open the AI era. All government spending comes from the taxes paid by our people, and as the sweat and tears of each and every citizen are imbued in those taxes, we have striven to ensure that not a single one is wasted. We boldly allocated funding essential to prepare for the future while drastically cutting spending that is unnecessary or not urgent. Including low performance, low efficiency expenditures, we cut spending by a record 27 trillion won, and we made all details transparent so the people can properly monitor and exercise their sovereignty. The government set total expenditures for 2026 at 728 trillion won, an 8.1% increase from this year. As this is a strategic investment that considers both future growth and fiscal sustainability in the AI era, we ask for the active cooperation of the National Assembly. Now, I'd like to explain the key directions of next year's budget proposal. First, we will significantly expand investment to open the AI era and firmly strengthen the foundation for growth. We have allocated a total of 10.1 trillion won for a great transformation aimed at leaping into the ranks of the world's top 3 AI powers. This is more than 3 times this year's budget of 3.3 trillion won. Of this, 2.6 trillion won will be invested into the introduction of AI across all sectors, industry, daily life, and public sector, and 7.5 trillion won will be invested in talent development and infrastructure building. First, to attain status as the leading physical AI nation, we will leverage our country's manufacturing capabilities and data to concentrate investment in priority projects. Rapidly to achieve an AI transformation focused on major industrial sectors such as robotics, automobiles, shipbuildings, and so on, we will invest approximately 6 trillion won over the next 5 years. With this budget, we will create fiscal AI regional hubs in each metropolitan area in connection with region-specialized industries, and through large-scale R&D and demonstration projects, we will promote AI-based regional innovation. We will support the rapid application of AI to 300 everyday close-to-life products such as in biohealth, housing, and logistics, and we will expand the introduction of AI in the public sector with a focus on welfare, employment, taxation, and new drug review. Next, we will also make bold investments in talent development and the construction of core infrastructure. We will train 11,000 advanced professionals to strengthen AI competitiveness, and through age-tailored education, support every citizen in being able to use AI proactively. We will purchase an additional 15,000 high-performance GPUs, the key components that determine competitiveness in the AI era, so that we can secure the government's goal of 35,000 units ahead of schedule. As NVIDIA has decided to supply 260,000 GPUs to Korea, private domestic companies will have no difficulties in securing GPUs. AI content and defense industry, these advanced strategic industries, for the core technologies to be developed, the R&D investment into that has also been expanded by 19.3% to a record 35.3 trillion won. Over the next 5 years, we will create 150 trillion won National Growth Fund to foster strategic advanced countries and ensure that the benefits of growth are shared by our citizens. In the AI era, the importance of culture can only grow far greater than now. To further strengthen the power of our culture that the world is watching, we will spare no investment in K-culture. We will expand contributions to the K-Content Fund by 200 billion won to invest in the cultural content industry. We will support young creators so that they can devote themselves to creative activities. To spur booms in K-food and K-beauty linked to the Korean wave, we will greatly expand export vouchers and financing support, reinforcing assistance across every stage of the value chain, from production to sales to distribution. AI technology is also changing the landscape of defense industry. By discovering startups with advanced technologies and investing R&D, we will nurture the defense industry into a core manufacturing sector of the AI era and lay the groundwork to become one of the world's top 4 defense powers. To this end, next year's national defense budget has been set at approximately 66.3 trillion won, an 8.2% increase from this year. We will reorganize conventional weapon systems into the most cutting-edge systems befitting the AI era, swiftly transform our military into an elite, smart force, strong force, dramatically strengthen our defense capabilities, and accelerate and realization of self-reliant national defense. For the Republic of Korea, which spends a defense budget amount to 1.4 times North Korea's annual GDP and is assessed as having the world's 5th-ranked military power, to rely on others for national defense is a matter of national pride. Second, we will provide robust protection for the lives of the vulnerable and firmly safeguard the lives and safety of our citizens. While new technological advances contribute to improving humanity's quality of life, they also cast shadows where gaps widen. It is the state's basic duty to protect the socially weak and vulnerable, who are the first and most severely affected by the shocks of changing times. To establish a stable income base for low-income groups, we will raise the standard median income by an all-time high of 6.51%, so that for a 4-person household, more than 2 million Korean won per month will be provided as basic livelihood benefits. We will expand the number of beneficiaries of day activity services for persons with developmental disabilities and greatly increase jobs for persons with disabilities to solidify the foundation for their social participation and independence. We will also spare no effort to ensure the safety of our citizens from various accidents and disasters. No longer anyone should be injured or lose their life at workplaces. We will increase the number of labor inspectors by 2,000 and establish worksite guardians to focus on preventing industrial accidents.
건설,
Sectors with
조성 등의
frequent
산재, 빈발
industrial
업종은
accidents, such as
현장을
construction and
상시
shipbuilding, we will subject to
1만
continuous
7천 개소의
on-site
영세
inspections.
사업장과
For
건설 현장에는
17,000 small business
안전시설,
owners
충족,
and construction
지원할
sites, we will support the expansion of safety
재난,
facilities.
재해 예방 및
For
신속
disaster
대응에
and calamity
전년 대비
prevention
1조
and rapid
8천억을
response, we have allocated a total of
총 5조
5.5
5천억을
trillion won, an
편성했습니다.
increase of 1.8 trillion won
이제는
compared to the
국민
previous
모두가
year.
생계와
We will now
생명의
build a
위기 앞에
society with
홀로
strong
남겨지지
fundamentals in
않는
which no
기본이
citizen is
튼튼한
left
사회를
alone
만들어가겠습니다.
in face of crises to livelihood or life.
근본적으로는
Fundamentally,
한반도
we
평화
will do our
정착을 위해
utmost to
최선을
establish peace on the
다하겠습니다.
Korean Peninsula.
평화가
If peace is
흔들리면
shaken,
민주주의도,
democracy,
경제도,
the economy,
국민의
and the safety of our
안전도
citizens
위협받을
cannot
수밖에
help
없습니다.
but be threatened.
남북 간
We will make
신뢰
bold
회복과
and
대화
magnificent
협력 기반
efforts
조성을
to
위해
restore
담대하고
trust
개선적인
and
노력을
build a
기울여
foundation for
나가겠습니다.
dialogue and cooperation
휴전선
between
일대에서의
the
군사적
two
긴장
Koreas.
완화 노력을
We will
지속하고
continue efforts to
교류 협력,
ease military
관계
tensions
정상,
around the DMZ,
비핵화를 통한
and through the END initiative,
이니셔티브로
exchange, normalization, and
평화 공존,
denuclearization,
공동성장이
we will open
한반도의
a new
새
era on the
시대를
Korean
확실히
Peninsula of peaceful
열어가겠습니다.
coexistence and shared growth.
마지막으로
Lastly,
생애 주기를
along with
촘촘한
meticulous
지원과
life
함께
cycle support,
균형 발전에도
we will
적극
actively pursue
나서겠습니다.
balanced development.
인공지능
In the
시대에는
AI era,
모두가 주역이고
everyone must
모든
be a
지역이
protagonist
중심이
and
되어야
every
합니다.
region must be a center.
먼저
First,
연령대별
with the
맞춤형
age-specific
지원을
tailored
통해
support,
인구 구조
we will
변화에
actively
적극
respond
대응하겠습니다.
to demographic changes.
출생률
To
반등을
lift
위해
the birth
아동 수당
rate,
지급
we will
연령을
expand the
만
age
7세에서
for child benefit payments from under 7 to under 8 in 2026 and extend it to under 12 during my term. We will establish the Youth Future Savings Program so that when low-income young people save, the government will provide matching contributions of up to 12% to support asset building for youth, so that seniors facing difficulties in daily life can spend their later years without inconvenience. We will expand community-based integrated care nationwide, and we will increase senior jobs from 1.1 million to 1.15 million to broaden opportunities for social participation. To reduce the cost of living burden on our people, we will introduce a flat-rate public transport pass to significantly lower transportation costs. We will support small business owners in difficulty through a provision of management stability vouchers and the issuance of 24 trillion won in regional gift certificates. In formulating this budget, the government has fully introduced a fiscal principle of preferential treatment for localities so as to overcome the current structure entrenched by a single-pole Seoul metropolitan system and to open a new era of 5 poles and 3 special zones with regions at the center of growth. To ease concentration in the capital area and to achieve balanced national development, we will provide thicker support the farther from the capital region a locality is. As part of this, we will ensure that 7 fiscal programs, including child benefits and senior jobs, provide greater support in non-capital regions. In selecting other government-funded projects, we will continue to expand local priority and local preference. For residents of depopulating areas, we will provide a monthly rural basic income of 150,000 won. In connection with regional strategic industries, we will foster flagship national universities as hubs of regional industry academia research cooperation, and we will establish a package-type support system that encompasses undergraduate, graduate, and research institutes. We have also greatly expanded the scale of block grants, through which local governments can decide projects on their own according to local conditions by roughly threefold to 10.6 trillion Korean won, thereby enhancing the autonomy of local government administration. Proud citizens who have built today's Republic of Korea, Mr. Speaker and members of the National Assembly, Next year will be the historic starting point, one that opens the AI era and prepares for a new century for the Republic of Korea. Let us work together so that the future ahead will not be a world filled with despair and anxiety, but one brimming with hope and opportunity. I believe in the latent strength of our people. That is why I am confident. I'm convinced that there is nothing we cannot accomplish if our people unite. The same people who, from the ruins of war, achieved the miracle on the Han River and overcame the IMF foreign exchange crisis through the gold collecting campaign. Just as we successfully achieved industrialization and informatization, together with our great people, we will throw wide open the doors to the AI era. For the future of the Republic of Korea, the government will listen with an open mind to the National Assembly's proposals and accept good alternatives at any time. Although differences in positions exist between the ruling and opposition parties, and we are seeing such regrettable situations, I believe that the sincere intention to serve the people and the nation is no different. I ask for bipartisan cooperation so that this budget bill will be passed within the statutory deadline and the Republic of Korea can move toward a new future. I look forward to the swift finalization and close deliberation of the 2026 budget. Thank you.
Now, that was President Lee Jae-myung delivering a speech on South Korea's budget proposal for next year at the National Assembly. We see him now walking out of the plenary hall at the National Assembly, shaking hands with lawmakers from both sides. So President Lee Jae-myung has been seeking bipartisan support from lawmakers from both the ruling party and the opposition party on next year's budget proposal. Now, that's worth over 700 trillion Korean won, which is around more than 500 billion US dollars. So a lot of that budget will be allocated for research and development with a particular focus on artificial intelligence, as the government seeks to revitalize the domestic economy and foster new growth engines. So this was the president's second budget speech since he took office in June. And today he promised support for small businesses as well as more job opportunities for elderly people. And of course, for research and development, especially artificial intelligence. He also vowed for more support for those in need, especially children and those in low-income households. He also touched upon the outcomes of the recent APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju and asked for the parliament's cooperation on follow-up measures. So we see the president walking out of the plenary hall at the National Assembly, shaking hands with lawmakers as he leaves after he delivered a speech on next year's budget proposal. That's worth over 700 trillion Korean won, which is over 500 billion US dollars. And President Lee today called on both ruling and opposition parties for the budget proposal's swift passage. Now, the total amount's about an 8% increase from this year's budget plan, and the president said promised that a lot of the budget will go to research and development, particularly the artificial intelligence and the robotics industry, as the government seeks to revitalize the domestic economy and foster new growth engines. The president also promised more job opportunities for elderly people, and he also said he will provide more support to those in need, especially those in the low-income households. So again, the president is now getting ready to leave the plenary hall at the National Assembly after delivering a speech on next year's budget proposal, where as he seeks more support, bipartisan support from lawmakers from both the ruling party and the opposition party. So again, next year's budget will be worth over 700 trillion Korean won. This is the first time in South Korea's history that the budget proposal is over this amount. This is around over 500 billion US dollars, which is about an 8% increase from this year's budget plan. So the president said the government will provide more support to the research and development for researchers, as the country plans to develop the artificial intelligence industry as well as the robotics industry. So we see the president now getting ready to leave the plenary hall after delivering a speech on the budget proposal.